Hello, I'm Yasmin, and today in our group there's Conor, Eleanor, Charlie, Charlotte and myself, and we will be discussing the Fallujah massacre. I will be talking about the basic facts of the massacre and the background. The Second Battle of Fallujah took place between the 7th of November and the 23rd of December 2004 and left over 600 dead, 1,000 injured and more than 60,000 refugees. The majority of dead were women, children and elderly members of the public. The US soldiers were given orders to kill anyone aged 10 and above who was considered a threat. In 1991, Iraq was subjected to sanctions and weapons inspections because it was claimed by Western intelligence that Iraq was developing weapons of mass destruction so powerful that they could threaten the West and potentially kill millions of people as well as be a threat to Western democracy. In 2003, a US-led coalition invaded Iraq, wanting to bring down the Iraqi leader Saddam Hussein and his followers, and also find and destroy these.
Hello, my name is Ellie, and I'm going to be discussing how this massacre was not an act of terrorism. The area of Fallujah is within an area known as the Sunni Triangle. It was an area most hostile to US and the coalition. The Sunni Arabs in this area were known to be strong supporters of Saddam Hussein's government. Many politicians and military leaders came from this area. The coalition carried out a ferocious attack on Fallujah in 2004, stating they were looking for armed and dangerous supporters of Saddam Hussein to kill. A deadly chemical weapon called white phosphorus was also used in the attack. Soldiers were told that everybody there was an enemy. White phosphorus had been banned by the United Nations in 1980 for use against civilians and also for use against military targets in proximity to civilians. Was this attack justified? Is it possible that all of the inhabitants, even the children of Fallujah, were all supporters of Saddam Hussein and because of that would oppose a threat to the West? We have heard from a soldier who was present at the time that there were young children who had weapons and were using them. Is there any justification in considering the needs of the many against the needs of the few? That in order to find and kill these political supporters and to stop the use of these weapons of mass destruction, that some lives must be sacrificed in the process.
The legal definition of murder is the unlawful killing of another human being under the Queen's peace. All people are under the Queen's peace except for foreign enemies killed in war. In conclusion, this legal definition states that killing in war is not a murder, so it could therefore be considered that the Fallujah massacre was not an act of terrorism.
Hello, my name is Charlotte. I'm going to briefly look at the view of the massacre given by interview with an ex-military soldier named Jeff Engelhart, who in the area of combat, namely Fallujah, where he claimed that everyone was a target of war, even children and babies. Jeff Engelhart added that anyone who was able to hold a gun and pull a trigger, no matter how young they were able to participate in the massacre. He suggests that it looked like a massive killing. The US used a chemical weapon named white phosphorus, which when in contact with skin created irreversible damage in the form of blisters and burns through to the bone. Both humans and animals were affected by this. White phosphorus was used most commonly in the killing of victims as it is a lethal chemical warfare weapon, which when in contact with water, oxygen and skin clearly has devastating effects. If breathed in, white phosphorus burns the insides of the mouth, throat and windpipe, causing the insides to melt and blister away. However, even with clear evidence that the chemical was being used within the 2004 massacre, it could be criticised that the Fallujah massacre was not an act of terrorism on the subject of chemical weapons. White phosphorus is classified as an incendiary weapon, as it burns and not poisons. However, clearly any form of physical harm onto a being is considered as torture, yet in argumentative terms it is not classified as a chemical weapon, then technically it isn't used to conflict and inflict any form of terrorism. Paul Wood, the BBC's defence correspondent, said on the 17th of November 2005 that the US statement of white phosphorus being used as an incendiary was not an admission that a chemical or otherwise illegal weapon had been deployed.
WP, or white phosphorus, is often used against targets which can be destroyed by burning. The white phosphorus round, with a fuse quick or time, causes the contents of the shell to scatter and burn as it comes in contact with the air. This is very effective against vehicles, fuel or ammunition storage areas, and encampments. White phosphorus can also be used to block the enemy's vision.
Hello, my name is Conor and I'll be evaluating and arguing the concept of why the Fallujah massacre was an act of terrorism. Firstly, there was an unnecessary use of violence on innocent people and the surroundings of Fallujah. The definition of terrorism is the systematic use of terror, often violent, especially as a means of forcing another party to act in an involuntary manner. Possible reasons for the hidden massacre is a vendetta against the civilians who were involved with the hanging of fellow troops. These led to no respect being shown towards a place of worship and anyone entering them. Troops also cut off electricity and power to the civilians. A lieutenant high up in power classed everyone as a thug and said to clean them out. Anyone in the vicinity of Fallujah aged 10 and above were considered to be a threat and the enemy. The use of toxic weapons were also used which had violent aspects to it. Most people were innocent and were attacked and killed. This was an act of terrorism and little was done to stop it or justify the actions taking place. The video about to be shown is one of the many bombings in Fallujah. If this isn't terrorism, I don't know what is.
I got numerous individuals on the road. You want me to take those out? Take them out. Ten seconds. Roger. Impact. Oh, dude.
Social construct is when society creates crime by making rules that breaks those rules which constitutes the crime. It involves the labelling and power of those involved. The key questions are, why is that rule there? The rule is there to govern us and keep us in order, and it enhances justice to everyone, criminal or not. Just like all rules, they are there for our own protection and well-being. Who made the rules and why? These rules are made over time through general learning and understanding of the human race and the activities that take place. It simplifies the moral codes of what is deemed right or wrong. In whose interest is the rule? It concerns everyone no matter who you are, religion, race, sex, age and global location. It is a generic meaning and the observation of the moral codes which also reflect upon us as human beings.
Upon entering Fallujah, the US forces went from door-to-door searching, clearing buildings and engaging the enemy in the streets. Upon entering homes of those of civilians, the Marines would clear it out and kill whoever was inside. The use of chemical weapons such as napalm, white phosphorus and MK-77 were extremely common within the battles of Fallujah. These weapons would burn and kill many of those who were hit by it. Civilian casualties were extremely common, as many were caught in the crossfire between the US Marines and the opposition. Despite being banned by the United Nations in 1980, the use of napalm was still affected. It was reported that more than 600 caches of weapons, ammunition and explosives were from Fallujah. Despite white phosphorus being an extremely powerful weapon, it was used in many urban areas, which killed many innocent civilians. It was known for pregnant women to give birth to deformed babies due to the chemical weapons that were used by the opposition, i.e. the US Marines. The unwarranted destruction of mosques and businesses within Fallujah was very common, as the Marines targeted anything they considered a threat. It can be argued that because of all this destruction, it was because of anger or vengeance from the US Marines. It can be seen in many videos that many wounded civilians were still being shot and killed by American forces.